Hey y'all, welcome to Culture Cult. We are a podcast where we tell really crazy history stories from every country in the world. I'm your host, Marie, and today we are jumping back into Joseph's story. This is a part 2 story of Joseph Bologne, aka Black Mozart. And I know y'all are eager to get into it, and Ralph is back on here to help me tell a story. If you clicked on this episode and you haven't heard the part 1 at all, or you don't know about Joseph's life, you're going to be quite confused. So I really recommend going back and listening to the part 1 episode. But okay, I know y'all are here to hear Joseph's story, so let's just get into it. Hey y'all, and we're back. And today we have on comedian and musician Ralph, but also his name is SOURJACK.
Yay. What's happening, everyone?
Yes, he's back from the last episode, but I did want to say I did find something really freaking cool when I was just researching rum, and I saw this rum called Rum Bologne, and I was like, that's Joseph's last name. His dad's name is George Bologne. He's Joseph Bologne. Joseph was born on a rum plantation, and I found out there's a modern rum called Rum Bologne that's literally his family's, like that's Joseph's plantation. Like that's like a modern company. So like
That's
you can
cool.
drink the rum that came back centuries ago, like that Joseph was born on.
That's cool.
And I was looking into it, and it was passed down the Bologne family until May 26, 1830, when someone purchased it. This man, he was the first freeborn man of color to own a property as the former de Bologne plantation. So it looks like it was owned by the Bologne family, which is George's family. Then a black man actually buys the property. Like I'm sure his family came. Yeah, his family came like with slaves on that property. He ended up buying it. It says he was the first freeborn man of color to own a property as extensive as this many acres. And the business flourished until 1848 when slavery was abolished. But despite his efforts to organize paid labor on the plantation, he was crippled by debt. He died on the property. This rum plantation was in financial ruin until 1887, until someone else bought it, and now it is revived today. So yeah, if you go to Guadeloupe and you drink Rum Bologne, you are literally drinking like history from Joseph's family, which is super freaking cool. Okay, so let's jump back into the story. Again, if you haven't listened to the first episode, you're just gonna be really confused. But to refresh, we are about to hit a different point of Joseph's life. So he was a top swordsman in Europe. He casually jammed out with Mozart. He jammed out with Marie Antoinette in Versailles. He's creating symphonies casually. Women are drooling over him. He's partying. But on the horizon is the French Revolution. And his friend Philip was recognizing that the revolution was coming and that we need to be on the right side of history. So we're going to jump right back into the story. Joseph is changing his role from artist revolutionary and starts accompanying his friend and abolitionist Philip. So in 1787, Joseph and Philip would go to England to meet the Prince of Wales. This Prince of Wales is about to be the King of England. So it's kind of like, you don't need to influence the old king. Let's find the next guy and try to influence him to abolish slavery. Turns out he really wanted Joseph to be there to be like the swayer. You know, it's like, I'll do all the talking if you like, you know, be like the guy who talks.
The charmer.
Yeah, the charmer. Yeah, like you got the music, you got all this parts of you that you'll charm him for. So Joseph knew it was his time to shine, and he started playing concerts. He dueled in front of like all these parties for the Prince of Wales. And this is a really cool miniature story out of this. One time he sparred a famous fencer. Her name was Chevalier d'Eon. She was a fencer, a French diplomat, and a spy in England. This is not the first time he's met her. They fought many, many years ago in France when Chevalier d'Eon was dressed as a man. So she cross-dressed till she could actually just come out as a woman and be like, no, I'm a fencer. But she was also played a spy. I actually kind of want to do a story on her because there's more to her story. So
I like that story too.
Right? Isn't that cool? So like, yeah, she just dressed as a man, like beat ass. And then was like, no, I'm a woman. I'm going to come out as a woman. And so then, but she's now a spy in England when they fight again. But I don't know if he recognizes that because when he fought her the first time, she was a man. But this woman, Chevalier d'Eon, she had a very androgynous look, which I feel like really could play in your favor back in the day. And so she passed easily as a man and as a spy. She even infiltrated the Russian court of Empress Elizabeth of Russia by acting as a woman of the court. And after 1777, she continued fighting and living as a woman. So she's been a spy in Russia as a woman. And then she's now a spy in England as a woman, but she fought fencing as a man, just as a man in France.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just kind of sneaking in all kinds of roles and shit. It's just insane. These parties he's going to, there's so many like cool people there, you know? I think she'd be really cool to cover when I cover France. So her name is Chevalier Dion, and while he's like, courting the Prince of Wales, he fights her again. But back to Joseph, he did his job well. So again, they're there to convince the Prince of Wales, hey, you need to abolish slavery. You need to be on the right side of history. The revolution's coming. And he finally got to get in his ear. And he was like, hey, why don't you just meet with the leading abolitionists of the time? You don't have to agree to anything. Just come and meet us with one night. So they're on the way to the meeting. Everyone's there. Joseph's kind of running late. And when he's walking there, things run sour. On the way to the meeting, 4 men ambush him. But unfortunately, they're fighting. They're trying to fucking rob Joseph. So he's the best swordsman in Europe. He doesn't have a sword on him, but Joseph beats every single one of them with his cane. And I'm sure they had swords and shit. And he beat all of them with a cane and then just continued walking to the party. He didn't even have like a scuff on him. So
what the hell?
I know.
This guy is the coolest guy I've never heard of,
So I'm like, the more I tell the story, I'm like, I don't think this is real. Like, what if he's just a rumor?
I mean, it's almost unreal. Like, you almost see that in like spy movies and shit. Like,
right?
People are like, and then walk in like 007. Like,
did that. I don't think he said shit either when he got to like the meeting. He was just like, hey, y'all, what's up?
Can't trust anybody. You don't know who's a spy.
That's true. That's true. But they fucked with the wrong man that day. They were trying to rob the wrong guy, and he beat them with a cane. And then he ends up going to the party, and the meeting went really, really well. So he was there to like change the views about slavery, and changed all the views of all these influential people at this meeting, and including the Prince of Wales. And in 1807, the transatlantic slave trade would be banned across the entire British Empire. And he and Philip can say they have a huge part in swaying that opinion.
That's beautiful.
I know. And it's just interesting, I think, because he is a Black man. He was born on a plantation, but he's never experienced all the horrors everyone else has. He's like been living it up with like, honestly, like the slave owners of these people. And
but
I don't know.
Still remembers his mom, though, like it sounded like kind of like Star Wars, almost like Anakin's learning how to be a Jedi out here, and his mom was like captured as a slave, and he was like trying to save his mom the whole time, and he's getting into like the politics of like, why is this world like this? But then he ends up being in the dark side. Oh,
really?
And being Darth Vader, but at the same time, like, yeah, I know.
You just spoiled Star Wars for me.
It's been out for.
I can't watch it now, so thanks.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't even know what I'm talking about. So
I do. I know Anakin. I know Anakin.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty interesting for like a guy who really starts off as like a child of a like pretty much a bastard, and he works his way up, almost like Jon Snow in a way.
Yes,
almost like Jon Snow. Like maybe these guys are inspired by. You know
I
what
don't think that many people know about his story. His story's just now coming out. Like I think people in the music world know about him. Like if you're a classical musician, you'll be like, oh yeah, Joseph.
I'm like, yo, I'm about to make this guy cool. This guy is cool as hell. Yeah.
Philip, his friend, can say like they were a direct ripple effect of the 1807 ban across the entire British Empire, which means AKA the world. It's the British Empire at this point in time. So really, really cool. So he spends 2 years in London at this point, and he's like, okay, cool. I think I want to go back to Paris. London was cute, but it's 1789, and he heads back there, and he's like, oh crap, Paris is not the same. It's not the same lively, vivacious, art-driven, like parties, operas. Like it's in despair. It's the war and revolution are in the air. The air's really, really tense between the royals and the elites and all the commoners. And he's an elite. Like he used to live at Versailles. So there's like a lot of whispers in the halls along like Versailles, like what's going to go on? Like, like all the monarchies are starting to crash down at this point too. So it's all these whispers like, is that going to happen to us? It's scary to be a royal at this point because you don't know if you're going to die. And these people never faced anything like that. So, but Philip, his best friend, was making a name for himself among the poor and lower classes. And he's seen as a political opponent against the monarch. Phillips knows where he's going to be at. He's like, I'm here for the people, slavery, the monarchy. Like, we need democracy. And
Mm-hmm.
Joseph's probably like, well, I mean, everything that's been given to him has been from the royals, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what his mindset's at this point. Do you take the chance and like possibly go to the guillotine and be murdered by like the people who used to be roommates with in Versailles? Like, these people gave you everything. They even closed down the opera for you because someone was racist to you. So like, these are his friends, but also his friends go against everything he's morally for. The elitist thing and slavery and his mom being a slave. It must have been very confusing for him. What do you think your mindset would be like at this point if you were him? And you can be honest, like, it's a different.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, yo, I can't even be funny with this situation because it is just like such a very tough situation to be in because you're for the people because you know the struggles of the people in a way. And then you're like, yeah, but these guys are paying me. These guys paid for my lifestyle for at one point. They helped me out. They can't help everyone out, but they can help us certain people. It's a very tough situation to be in. Like,
yeah. But honestly, this is the life he's known since he was about 7 when he came to France. He's only been in the elitist. He actually doesn't know probably a lot about like a commoner's situation or a slave. You know, he was born a slave, but he left at 7 and his dad loved him. So it's a very big risk either way you go. Let's say you choose people. Yay, great. But do they have an army? France has a fucking
resources?
Army.
No.
Yeah. But if you stay on the elitist side and the commoners win, like, you're going to be massacred. You know, it's war either way. And you just really do have to just pick a side.
Sheesh. What side do I pick? Some people are going to die on both sides. We're going to have to accept that. Just not me. I don't want to die. I will give music to both sides, but I definitely want to acknowledge that both sides have a point. So how do we get to
what is the elitist point? Like, just taking and taking and taking? All they have is because they took. Anything he's been enjoying is from the fruits of the labor of other people. So I would like to think that I would go on the commoner side, but the risk is very high.
Oh, man. That's kind of a tough situation to be in, especially because you're just an artist that got flung into this situation, you know? So I don't know. Do you bite the hand that feeds you so you can feed the people? But if you get ousted, how will you pay for anything yourself? How are you going to live? Because the people don't have money. Will you be remembered in history as the people's people or a traitor of the elitists?
Yeah. It's a lot. I mean, his friend Philip has been on very loudly on the other side the whole time. And he's an elitist, quote unquote. But born
an elitist and then be brought into the elitist is different, right?
That's true.
Like, that's a rich kid can just be like, yeah, fuck the rich and the wealthy. They're sick. They don't help. Like, yeah, you had it all your life.
Yeah. But also, like, he's a black man in Paris. What if you like, I'm going to join you. I'm going to fight with y'all. And they're like, no, you're black. We don't want you here. And it's like, well, I just told them to fuck off. So I kind of need y'all to
like that's me. Your problem.
That's the thing. Is like, on top of everything, he's like one of the few free black men in Paris or France, possibly even Europe. So it's like he has that leveled into it. Like, you have to think about what is truly best for your safety too. But Joseph, he's a badass, and he decides to fight in the revolution against the monarch. So he really believed in equality for everyone, and that meant supporting the revolution. So he switches sides. In 1791, he joins the Voluntary Revolutionary Army and becomes colonel, and he became the first black battalion in Europe.
This story is incredible.
No,
it's seriously really most like it. I know I'm just like waiting to do research after this.
Right?
Like, yeah.
This is like Les Miserables times 5. Like, he's the whole play. So yeah, he's led the first black battalion in Europe. He's a colonel at this point. Jump ahead a few years. Joseph is making his way to battle with his troops when suddenly he was arrested without reason. He was then put into prison. It's actually a law that came out. It's called the law of suspects, which is actually no law. I literally could just be like, you're a suspect. You're going to jail. You could just point your finger, pretty much. It's like a witch hunt. So he gets arrested without reason. But this is not the time you want to be in prison. Over the next 13 months, it becomes one of the darkest times Paris would ever see. And it's absolutely terrifying. This time period was known as the Reign of Terror. 26,000 people, which is like a football stadium, would die from the guillotine or prison. So right now he's in prison waiting for the guillotine. I'm pretty sure Philip already died. from the government. So I do want to read some 5 really, really creepy facts about the guillotine that I found. So the first one being, according to history.com, just the origin of it. The origin of the French guillotine dates late 1789 when his name's too hard to say, but Dr. Guillotine proposed that the French government adopt a gentler method of execution. It was only just supposed to be a suggestion. He would never wanted it to be capital punishment among the entire country. So now this is the best way to technically get killed in France from the government. So the guillotine drove people in hordes to watch people be killed. Spectators would buy souvenirs. They would read a program listing the names of the victims. They would even grab a quick bite to eat at a nearby restaurant called Cabaret de la Guillotine. Some people would attend on a daily basis, most famously the Trisotesses, a group of morbid women who supposedly sat beside the scaffold and knitted in between beheadings. The theater even extended to the condemned. Many people offered sarcastic quips or defiant last words before being executed. Others danced their way up to the scaffold. They're like, well, if I have a crowd, I might as well make a show. So some people even danced their way into getting their head cut off. The fascination with the guillotine waned around the 18th century, but public beheadings continued till 1939.
I mean, historically speaking, it's pretty recent.
It's very recent. Anyone's grandma or grandpa could have seen a public guillotine beheading. So it was also a popular children's toy. Some even played with miniature guillotines in their home. Just creepy, but not that creepy because we do the same thing with like guns. Like we have like Nerf guns and like, you know, it's kind of like that.
Kinda. But that's like if everyone had like an electrical chair and everyone's like, ooh, guess who's fucking burnt to crisp this week.
So true.
I mean, we didn't have like TV or radio back in the day. So it's like to see a murder live, I'm sure it was like a boxing event. It
was a thing to do. It was such a miserable time. I feel like misery breeds misery. And so they're like, sure, let's go see the next beheading. So guillotine operators were also national celebrities. As the fame of the guillotine grew, so did the reputation of its operators. They won a great deal of notoriety during the French Revolution when they were closely judged on how quickly and precisely they could do it. The job was also a family business usually. So there's multiple generations of the famed Sanson family served from 1792 to 1847. Just generations. Like you were born, this is the family business. This is what you're going to do. The Saison family were responsible for dropping the blade on Queen Louis XV and Marie Antoinette.
Dang.
So what if that's your last name out there? So if your like last name is Saison, Sanson, you probably came from a family of executioners. So according to some accounts, gangsters and other hoods would get tattoos of grim slogans such as "My head goes to Deblia," which is one of the families that did it. So like it was just like they were celebrities. The guillotine remained in France's state of capital punishment well into the 20th century. Convicted murderer Hamida Danjoubi became the last person to meet his end in 1977. So public beheadings were until 1939, but capital punishment like executions by the government was 1977. So after the fucking Beatles.
Yeah, I'm talking about this is disco era.
So keep all of that in mind. I'm sure Joseph could hear from prison all of the freaking festivities happening out there. People singing and dancing on the way to the grave. People knitting and shit, calling out names. Like, it's a thing. They actually did not kill him immediately. They were like, let's just slowly let him rot in prison. Unfortunately, his longtime friend, Louis Philip II, lost his head to the guillotine. But Joseph was lucky, as he always is. The people of France came together, stopping the reign of terror, agreeing they had seen too much death. So imagine being like the last guy. Like you're the last one that they're like, okay, I think we're done, right? Like we're good now. Okay, go. Like imagine like you didn't have to die. Like they just suddenly one day they're like, we're going to stop, I think. So they all stop one day. They turn on the committee that created the quote law of suspects, which is how Joseph got in prison in the first place. Later that year, Joseph was finally free. And while he was in prison, slavery was abolished even in France, such as colonies such as Guadeloupe. And so that's a decade before England would abolish the transatlantic slave trade. And that means his own mother, Nanon, could be finally free. So while he was in prison, at least his mother got to be free. Yeah. After that, life was chill for Joseph. He would move to a small town outside of Paris. He directed a small orchestra, and he said, quote, I played the best violin of my life during this time period while he was living there. So
I bet you're about to die, boy. Why are you playing the best violin too? But my next one is called Guillotine. Spare me.
So to recap his whole life in a paragraph, 1799, Joseph Bologne was born as a slave in his father's home, who was his master in Guadeloupe. He would die at the age of 53 in the small village of France. He would die as the best swordsman in Europe at the time, top violinist playing alongside of Mozart, jamming out with kings and queens. He convinced the Prince of Wales the immortality of slavery, and therefore that became the domino effect of the abolitionist movement, along with his best friend, Philippe. And the transatlantic slave trade ended. That is the longest thing I could have said.
Transatlantic slave trade
ended. Thank you. And then finally, he became a revolutionary colonel, almost died by the guillotine, and he fought the royal hand that fed him. And that is the story of Joseph Bologne Chevalier St. George.
Hey, good job on finding this story.
Yes, we love Joseph. He's like not real.
No, he's not. No, he's almost like...
This was a pure fiction story.
Yeah, 007 type. But, I mean, he gets caught. He goes to jail, though. So, but standing for his rights, doing everything, I guess, like to his moral gut. I mean, kudos for him, man. Shout out to his master / dad to like pull him out and be like, hey, I think there's something going on here.
Yeah.
But you would have never known his life would have been all of this. Like, you just don't know. I've never heard a story like this.
Me either. That's why I was saying, like, if you ever hear someone calling him the Black Mozart, it is a great opportunity to educate them and stop them right there and be like, oh, you mean the revolutionary colonel? Oh, you mean the best swordsman in Europe? Like, he's not just a musician, and he's not just a musician to be compared to Mozart. Like, he's a badass. He's James Bond, Barack Obama, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson. Like, he's not Mozart.
You know, Mozart was cool, but this guy had layers, you know?
Layers.
Yeah. I'm just thoroughly impressed. Like, I never heard this story before.
Since you are an artist, what about him has inspired you with your artistry?
As a human, you always want to stand on the right side of history. And I feel like he did that. What inspires me is just like how multifaceted he was. Like, he wasn't just limited to music or fencing or any box. How are you a colonel of a fucking group of guys to fight a war, and you never fought a war before?
Yeah, that's so true. Been living a cushy lifestyle, and then he's behind the barracks.
This story really has me like, you can do it all. Like, you know what I mean? It costs a lot to be on the right side of history, but he was just like, I'm for the people, so let's just go. And whatever happens, happens. It should inspire us all, like, really. To pick up fencing, but really just to keep evolving as a human being, right? Like, that's the name of the game. You can't just be like, I am this person.
Yeah.
I am this. Like, you're not. No one is just this person. And you don't even know what your life is going to lead to, which is even more incredible. Like, you have an idea, but also the pressures of the world is going to like kind of make you into something that you're either going to be ready for or you're going to be ready for it.
Yeah. I think that's another thing is like, I think we get so attached to like identity. It's like, I'm a musician. I'm a teacher. It's like, no, you can be like in everything.
Yeah.
Like and I feel like when we box ourselves in, you're not reaching any of your other potentials, you know?
I definitely know. I would probably ask him, like, how did you balance it all? Like, he'd be like, what do you mean balance? It's just my life. You know, they don't talk like that back.
No.
I don't think they talk like that back in the day. Like, how'd you balance like a social life and a person? And how'd you learn? Like, they don't have to do all that, because it was just like, hey, less distractions. And it's just like, this is just my life. I'm just living my life.
He was given a hand and he just went for it.
Did he ever get married with kids?
No, he never got married. So I'm wondering if his little Achilles heel with women and relationships.
Every great man is not a great family man.
That's true.
He was probably like yearning for it, probably in jail, just like, I didn't even start a family. No one loves me. And he just ends his life playing violin,
In a
just hanging
small
out,
little town.
hanging out with harlots.
No, I hope that like he goes to this town and no one knows who he is because it's a small town. And I hope he has like a flirting little love with a librarian or like a cafe lady, and like they just talk every day and they have this like old age love. That's what I'm hoping for Joseph.
I would want that to happen for like it's just a little bakery lady.
Yeah.
Just brings him bread because all he does is like stay in his apartment cooped up, just playing violin. But he's like, you have to come out. You have to eat. I don't want to eat. There's nothing I long for anymore.
Yeah. I did want to give out today's shout out. It's to a country you haven't shout out yet, and I don't know why, because they're huge listeners. Canada. Ralph, what do you know about Canada?
The diversity that really lies in Canada, especially Toronto, the acting scene in Vancouver. Like a lot of people go to Vancouver to film a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of Hallmark movies that we watch during the holidays. They're all filmed in Vancouver.
100%.
So that's pretty funny to know. All I know is really Toronto and Vancouver. I went there as a kid, went to Quebec, a lot of French speaking, just like Jamaicans and Indians. Like Toronto is like probably the most diverse. Indians, Jamaicans, Haitians. Yeah, there's a lot of diversity going on in Canada. How do they get there? What puzzles me is how anyone in the Caribbean just ends up north.
That is the opposite climate.
Yeah, I mean, a Haitian discovered Chicago. So it's just like, how did you get here? Was there like a ship? Like through slavery that went across. But yeah, a lot of Caribbean people, a lot of Indian people live in Canada.
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense because in the Life of Pi, the family's Indian and they're going to Canada. And then hindsight, the podcaster I love, he's Jamaican and he lives in Canada.
I feel like it's one of the places that is untapped for me. Like, and I've just heard so much about it. So I'm like, yeah. Especially since Drake came out of there too.
Drake, Will Arnett.
Jim Carrey came out of Canada. Justin Bieber came out of Canada. Martin Short. Yeah, so there's a lot of people that came out of Canada. Actually was the first one to have like, they kind of inspired Saturday Night Live. It was called CTV and they had like sketches and stuff. And from there, Canada, and then it kind of translated into Saturday Night Live here in America.
What? I didn't know that. Okay, I wanted to shout out some bands from Canada. They're like some of my favorite bands. So the first one's called Carquois, Karkwa. It's just, they haven't put out that album in a long time. They're like early 2000s, beautiful like French rock. That's Carquois. And then it's all in French. And then Plants and Animals. It's one of the most unique bands. It's one of those that just touches my soul. Like it really, their newest album is, no, don't go to their new album. Please don't do it. There's one album. It's definitely one of those albums like you're on a drive, you're high, one of those. It's called Park Avenue. That album, I need everyone to listen to. It's your homework. Also, like the album cover is fucking awesome. It's just these people chilling in the woods. But this is one of my favorite bands. And they come from Canada. Plants and Animals. And then the album is Park Avenue. Also, Metric came out of Canada. I saw them live. And I guess if you like Justin Bieber, you get that too. And Drake. I love Drake.
Bro, I love Justin Bieber. I ain't even gonna hold you, bro.
We're supporting Canada right now. So yay. Yay, yes. Justin Bieber. We're supporting Justin Bieber because we're supporting Canada. Thank you for listening. Canada. I've been seeing y'all listening for a long time. It really means a lot. But yeah, that concludes this episode of Joseph Chevalier's life. I had such a good time learning about him. We do have one more episode in Guadeloupe. So Joseph mainly lived in Europe. So we didn't really get to focus a lot on the island. The next episode on Guadeloupe, which Ralph will be back on for that one, because I need you to be on all three. Because now that you can see how one person grew up in Guadeloupe and the way their life went, we're going to hear about two other people, Solitude and Louis Delgré. They are also born on plantations, and we get to hear how their life went. They stayed on the island in this time period. So I think it's important that you hear all of the stories because you're going to understand the perspective of time.
I'm here for it.
But yeah, that's it. And cheers, y'all. By the way, y'all, did y'all know Ralph was a musician? His name is SOURJACK on Spotify, and this is his new song, Vacation Time.
smooth loving, I get ice in my veins. Like cool runnings, I ain't never been afraid. Just to say that I love myself every day. While you hide in your pain and go insane with no one else to blame. Vacation time is over. That's the final line from you. You don't think to call me sober, and that ain't nothing new. Sing it with me. Ooh, vacation time is over. Sing it. Vacation time is over. Everybody been good at acting, pretending. I started acting like I should. Simply authentic. You could be out in a fine ass dress. I won't even blink an eye. Yeah, the monster in the stress. I ain't a psychic, baby, but I got my read on you. You're colorful, baby. That's only filled with blue. Vacation time is over. That's the final line from you. You don't think that I'll be sober, and that ain't nothing new. Sing it. Vacation time is over. Feeling with you. Vacation time.